guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have a
yeah, I mean that's a great question. I would say internal skills, like so I had, it took me like 4 or 5 years. I had the idea of like being a life coach for 4 or 5 years before I actually like made any moves.
I know you said no. So where were you born and raised, and where are you at right now? All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have a special guest with us today, Mr. Nik Cherwink. Nik, how you doing, man?
I'm great, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Super cool to be a part of this, and excited to dive in with you.
Absolutely, man. And we were just kind of just like catching up before we hit the record button. And just to give the listener some context, we used to go to the same high school, LC Allen High School in Santa Rosa, California. So shout out to the hometown Santa Rosa. Yeah, you're 2003, right, Nik?
2003, yeah. And okay. You guys were like 1 year younger?
04,
yeah.
Yeah. I just, right. The more I think about it right now, just like I have all these flashbacks going in my head. LC Allen, and then I remember you just said too, you brought something up, like you used to throw massive parties there. We used to go to them.
I did. We had some good parties. You guys are just asking me if my mom still has the same house that I grew up in, and that was a small ass house, but we would pack some people in it. We would through some ragers in that little house.
It was fun, man. And then I was just thinking back, like, damn man, if that was my house, like I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, I don't know how I got away with that.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, cool, man. Appreciate your time, and honestly, we're gonna dig into a lot of cool stuff. And I've seen like all the stuff that you've been doing. Like I think even before we hit record, we said the last time we really connected was since high school. So that's been like 17, 18 years, man. Like how time flies. So I've seen the journey you've been on and all the cool stuff you're doing. So I know you're going to just deliver a ton of value. So let's go ahead and kick this off with what we call rapid dynamic questions. So short, quick questions, short answers. And then from there, we'll just kind of jump into it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Right on, man. So I know you said, So where were you born and raised, and where are you at right now?
Born and raised in Santa Rosa, California, and now living in San Diego.
Okay. So then in San Diego, I mean, let's say just even Los Angeles, right? There's so many billboards out there. If you had, if like, let's say the city granted you a billboard, what would that billboard say?
It would say 3 words: go for it.
Go for it. Okay.
Go for it. Simple.
Would that be the same billboard in Santa Rosa?
Yeah. In Santa Rosa, it would say, get the hell out.
I'm with you. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what I mean? Like go do something. Don't be comfortable. Let's go see what else is out there.
I like that, man. I like that.
Yeah.
There you go. Cool. So obviously, man, the past couple of years, it's been, craziness, right? So what do you think like the world needs more of? Maybe to sum it up like in a sentence or so.
Good question. I think we need more connection. If we're talking about just the world and just the state of things over the last couple of years, we need more love. We need more connection. We've been so divided. We've been so isolated, and we just need to get back to remembering that we're all one, like, let's just be like, we're one human race, one human family. Let's just get connected and love each other again. We need more of that.
Exactly. 100%, man. Love it. Speaking to entrepreneurs, what do you think are 2 skills that an entrepreneur should master going into 2022?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I would say internal skills, like I would say emotional intelligence, learning how to control your emotional state. Yep. Right. Like you got to be able to master your own emotions. You got to be able to wake up and, be inspired, be focused. That internal world is one skill. And then in terms, I'd say like an external skill. Yeah, I think like marketing, like you got to be able to get yourself out there. If people don't know who you are and they don't know what you're doing, like how can they buy from you? How can you deliver your service if you're not putting yourself out there? So I think, emotional mastery and marketing, those are the 2 skills.
Yeah, those are solid, man. So what's been like in 2021, like a game-changing resource, educational resource? It could be a podcast, it could be like a book, audio book, it could be a course or a program, whatever it is.
Yeah. I would say it was, end of 2020, coming into 2021. I'm a life coach. And so I participated in a program called Kaboom, which was really life-changing for me. It was a business accelerator, teaching me how to build my business. So, I invested in that. It was like a, good investment, but I truly believe in investing in yourself to learn the things that you don't know, to get the support that you need to get. But besides being a business accelerator, it's also very, very deeply spiritual. It's like tapping into the spiritual energetics and how to really grow as a person, how to get over your own fears and your own limiting beliefs, as well as just having like a really amazing community. Because being an entrepreneur, being a coach, running your own business can be very isolating and very lonely. So to have other people that you're on the journey with. So I got to have all three of those things in one place. And it's such a game-changing experience for me. I actually came back later on to become a coach for that program. And so I got to go to the other side of it and actually support, the new people coming through. So that was really big, pivotal, part of my growth over the last year.
That's awesome. Love that, man. I want to dive deeper into that in a little bit. And then my last question, Nik, is what's your biggest worry these days?
Ooh, my biggest worry. Man, yeah, let's get vulnerable real quick. Yeah. My biggest worry is sometimes there's this overwhelming just fear in the back of my mind that I'm not going to be able to hold it all together. I have a relationship and that takes time and energy and that takes work. Sure. And then I have a business as an entrepreneur. I don't have a guaranteed paycheck every other week. And so, every other week, like most people do. And so sometimes I just get, I get hit with that fear of just fuck, am I going to be able to juggle all of this? Am I going to be able to make it work? And sometimes when the money's coming in, you're high and you're like, yeah, this is great. And you're getting along with your girlfriend. Oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden you're getting in a fight and your client's just wrapped up and it's just like, oh shit, So, I'll be honest that fear is there sometimes.
Yeah. Whoo, man. Yeah. Watch. We're going to go deep into that part too. Cause I love everything you said there. Like people need to hear this and the reality of it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm with you, man. But yeah. So that pretty much, Nik, you're off the hot seat with the rapid dynamic questions, man. So I appreciate you. So let's jump into this. So you said before too, before we hit record, one thing that really interests me and Chris was that you left Santa Rosa, out of high school. You went to LA, or it could have been San Diego, but you went to go pursue your dream and career in music, right? So what made you do that? And then what made you shift into coaching?
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of a couple parts to that question. Cause really, if I was really being honest and in alignment with where my truth and my passion was when I was in high school, I loved being an artist and making music. You guys knew me. I was playing the drums. I was in a band. I was in the marching band. That was my thing. And that was my passion. And it's what I was so lit up to do. But also at the same time, coming from the hood, coming from being poor and not really having, seeing the only ticket out of Santa Rosa that I saw was to go to college, was to participate in the template and the sort of programmed idea of what it takes to be successful, which is go to college, get a degree, get a job, make money, So that was a really big lesson for me because I actually turned my back on my real passion, which was making music, which if I could go back and talk to 17-year-old me, I would have stuck with that. I would have stuck to, producing music and playing the drums and just following my heart. So that was actually a big lesson because I turned my back on my calling and on my passion at that time. I bought into this idea that you need to go to college and you need to get a degree. And, I got an economics degree and I didn't learn a damn thing. I don't use that shit at all anymore. You know what I mean? It didn't teach me anything about real life business or how to make money. So coming out of college and actually being very lost and confused, I'm I got this degree, but I don't want to, be a financial advisor. I don't want to be an investment banker. That shit doesn't light me up. So fortunately I brought my passion for, I still had a passion for music, but now I also had this business degree. And so I went to go work in the music business. And that's what brought me to LA after going to college in San Diego. And so, I had a whole decade of working in the music business, and that was cool, from working at a major label to being an artist manager to working at a music production school, helping like up and coming music producers and DJs, get into the business. And that's along the way, that was where I discovered, out of everything that I was doing, the thing that I liked the most was supporting and inspiring other people to really go after their dreams. And I think that comes from me not really going after my dream when I was 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
So that's a big passion that I have now, is like, and it's funny, I've been reflecting on this a lot. I think that like that was supposed to happen. Like I was supposed to not go and do that, so that I could actually be really lit up about helping other people do it. Cause now that is my passion. That is my dream. That is like what I love doing. And I'm just like, yo, don't buy into the programming. Don't go base your whole life around working a job that you hate and just making money and being unfulfilled. Like everybody has a calling, everybody has a gift. And now I'm just on a mission to help wake other people up to what's possible, which now I've been able to do that. I've been able to now, be a full-time coach, making as much money, making more money than I ever was, like being an entrepreneur, and like really lit up and really fulfilled about what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that, man. And I want to go back to what you said too, just like, cause I think this is good for like, even like people that are, aspire entrepreneurs, or they feel like they're stuck. Well, Chris and I talk a lot about this, about like changing up your environment, because, a lot of people are just scared to live in the unknown and unknown territory. And sometimes you just need to get yourself away from like that comfortable territory that you're born and raised in, your peers, like all that stuff that could be negative. So was there anything that like kind of that was going on like after high school that just made you be like, man, like something about this place, Santa Rosa, just like it feels too comfortable. It's just like I'm destined for more. Was there something like that?
Oh, for sure, man. And for me, it was I think that we can be driven from two different places. Sometimes we're driven from pain. It's like this hurts and this is uncomfortable and I don't want to be here, which there was actually a lot of that. A lot of where I was coming from at that time was like, I come from a broken home. I live in like a tiny house, and we have no money. And I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I know that I'm meant to do bigger and better things than, so I was at that time when I was young, was being, very much driven more so by pain rather than being driven by inspiration, being driven by love, being driven by like the vision that you have for your higher self. You know what I mean? So it's like the difference between being pushed by something and being pulled by something, right? And they're both different types of energy, and neither of them are good or bad. But I would say when you can shift into being pulled, like when you're in alignment with like your higher vision, your higher calling, your higher self, then it becomes more of like, I'm being pulled by that vision rather than I'm running away from a painful situation, and I'm trying to like, push myself out of it. Which when I was young and I was a teenager, I played rugby. It was like me playing rugby was like, I'm getting on the field because I'm mad. And I'm, I was just like, I had a place to take all that aggression out. And that was cool, but like, I don't want to live there anymore. Now I'm really tapped into like, what's my calling? What's my purpose? What like, why was I put here on earth? You know what I mean? Like I wasn't put here on earth just to have a job and pay bills and die. You know what I mean? Like I'm here to make a difference, and there's something bigger. And so that energy shift is so different, and it's good for, I think everybody needs to tap into that.
Yeah. So I want to know, man, like, when did you like really kind of tap into that? Like, was it in college, or was it when you were like in the music industry for 10 years? Because it's like, just do that energy shift and tap into that higher power is not easy, right? It's not like a light switch, but like, how did you just like tap into that? When did you exactly tap into it?
Yeah. Well, I think when, the transition from high school into college was more like, I'm just running away from pain. I need to get out of here. And then in college, I was very lost, and I wasn't excited about anything. And getting into the music industry, I actually, years later kind of realized that was actually a very ego-based decision, because I really just wanted to have a job that was cool, and that all my other friends that like they were working at banks and they were going to law school, I could just tell, I was like, I got a cooler job than you, dude. Your job is lame. Look at me, I'm working in Hollywood. I'm so cool. And I realized later on, like, it was coming from a place of passion, but also there was a lot of ego tied up in it. And once I got really clear on that, and I kind of let go of the ego, then probably like halfway through my industry career, then I started to tap more into like the calling and asking those bigger questions of like, why am I really here? Like, am I here? Like, was I put here on earth to work at a record label or to be an artist manager, you know, and something always kind of fell off. And for a while, because I'd started studying personal development like right when I got out of college, and I was like, yo, this just for myself. I was like, this stuff is great. I was like, I spent 4 years learning a bunch of shit, you know, well, even more, my whole life learning a bunch of stuff that I don't even use. And then when I was 22, right out of college, I started learning, you know, basic personal development stuff that like actually made a difference in my life. Like, wow, like why wasn't I learning this all along? And so then I naturally found myself just sharing that and teaching that to other people. And that's, you know, over the years when I realized like, oh yeah, there's a bigger purpose for me here. And this is the direction that it's in. So I had, you know, it took me like 4 or 5 years. I had the idea of like being a life coach for 4 or 5 years before I actually like made any moves on it.
Yeah. And was it just like was it a fear and like a limiting belief to take like action, like and just like do it?
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And it was also, you know, it's not like I hated what I was doing. I actually was living a very fun, you know, cool life, like working in the music industry. And for a long time, I did find a way because I was working at this music production school where I was teaching music business classes and I was teaching creativity classes. And it was through teaching that spark started to become more and more alive. But yeah, the idea was there for a while. And I was just like, you know, I didn't really know where to begin. And yeah, there's just a lot of fear too of like, yo, how do I even make that transition and shift, you know, change industries. And yeah, I just didn't know how to do it. And, but that was the big thing that I realized was like, oh, I don't even need to change industries. I can still start coaching and teaching these things to everybody that I already know, which just happened to be artists and DJs and music producers. So that was where, you know, the first couple of years of my coaching was really just based around coaching artists.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I think like it's what you said earlier, how it just kind of, it comes full circle, right? To where it's like, you were actually like coaching people in the moment, you know, like kind of just indirectly, right? So you obviously picked up those skills now that you're doing like full time, but what else, like what other key lessons in that decade of just like working in the music industry and helping artists out, like, did you really like get from that?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest lessons, and, you know, this is something I'm still really working on is, you know, it's hard work, man. Like, I don't know anybody, like I've seen so many people that are successful, like coming out of college, being 22, 23 years old and, you know, getting kind of like an entry level type of job out of college. And then meeting other 20 something year olds that are making like millions of dollars because they started their own businesses or they were just like doing some next level stuff. That was a couple of the lessons that I learned was one, like when you really chase your passion and carve out your own path, the amount of money that you can make, the amount of success that you can have, the amount of fun and fulfillment that you can have is so much more than just kind of following the template, you know, and just like, you know, taking the 9-to-5 job and taking that entry level salary. It's like when you have the courage to take some risks and go after what you really want. Yes, it can be scary, but you can be, you know, the possibilities are so much more. So like, you know, knowing what your passion is, having the courage to go out of it, but then also just like hard work. You know, I just like met so many people that are grinding and hustling, and nobody that I've met that has been at that level of success hasn't been like all in, fully dedicated, working their ass off, you know? And that's where I'm kind of at. I'll be honest. I'm like, I'm not the hardest worker in the world. Like, I'm just like, I'm still working on like, get that grind. Like, yeah, when it comes to the gym, I love to work hard in the gym, but you know, I know that there's a level of grind and hustle that it takes to, you know, be really, really successful at that level, you know?
Yeah. I think too, what stands out, man, is like, you're just like, you got fired up and just like influenced by just like osmosis, right? Just like that environment of other bigger thinkers and bigger players, which is great. Totally. And that's what we advocate. That's what really like lit a fire under us, is just joining masterminds and things like that. And then I would even say too, it sounds like, man, like you just pretty much are like, man, like I'm not living a life by default. I'm living my life by design. And that's the way it should be. Right. And you talk a lot about this in your content too, about like thinking bigger. So is that something that you just hammer home to like your students in your coaching program?
Honestly, that's been a bit more recent for me. I think what you're talking about, that idea of osmosis around, you know, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend your most time with. That's been becoming more and more real. And what I'm realizing is there's just these levels, because you break out of your comfort zone, you get to that next level, but then that next level becomes normal.
Right.
And that next level becomes comfortable. You know what I mean? And so it's just this constant, you have to continue reevaluating, and you have to continue leveling up and continue seeking out like that next mastermind, that, you know, the next group of people that are at that next level. Cause I've certainly found that for myself. I'll have these breakthroughs and I'll be like, oh, cool. Like, this is nice. I'm making like, you know, a nice little amount of money. I'm hanging out with like a nice little group of people, but then like a year goes by and you're like, yo, I'm still here. I'm still right where I was a year ago. So it's like, we have to continue to be assessing and setting those next bigger goals. And also like that whole idea of, you know, just taking that one step forward to that next level that's kind of comfortable to reach versus taking like 10 steps forward in one, you know, like making a massive leap, making a massive jump. I've had so many friends in their coaching businesses that have just like blown up super fast. And I've seen people kind of inch and crawl their way forward. You know, my process has been a bit more, you know, just slow and natural. Like, what's the next step? What's the one thing? But I'm definitely starting to think differently about that. Like, oh, like what would it look like to, you know, 10X in a year? You know, what kind of mindset does that take? What kind of what kind of person do you have to become to completely reinvent yourself and skyrocket to not the next level, but like the 10 levels ahead, and just like in Mario, when you do that little level skip, you go down the tube and you're like, oh, you just jumped to level 8 when you should have been at 3. You know, it's like, it's possible. I see it happen all the time.
Yeah. No, and that's a great point, man, because again, like, it's like how, like, it's another level of like thinking and just like, you know, just the confidence too, because I mean, shoot, we've been in this game for like over a decade, but it's like,
I know, my bad. I know you're probably like, dude, why did you do that? I just really quick, and we'll be back to that video. I just want you to join our free Facebook group community for health and fitness coaches looking to get more online clients. So just click the link below in the description box, join it absolutely free. We got some cool stuff in there, a lot of videos, we do live trainings every couple of months on there. And we got some cool freebies on there. So just make sure to click the link below, join our free Facebook group for health and fitness coaches that want to level up and get more online clients to create more income, impact, influence, independence. Back to the video.
You know, it's like you could learn all these new skills, like all these systems, structures, like hacks and all that stuff. But it's like at some point, what I've heard, it's just it's a whole nother way of thinking, and just like you have to become another person. And it's almost like, what else are you willing to sacrifice? So it's really it's interesting. You know, it really is.
And this is something I've been really diving into lately. Has been like, you know, we come from Southwest Santa Rosa, man. Like, we did not grow up around people that were millionaires. We did not grow up around a lot of entrepreneurs or people that thought really big. You know, like we grew up with people that were surviving. It was like, yo, how do we pay the bills this month? You know, that's what we grew up and that's what we saw from when we were born and what we're deeply, deeply programmed in. And so that's been becoming very aware, like in my mindset of like, oh, there's some deep rooted stuff that I really got to work on and really break through. That's like subconscious, you know, this whole idea that we have our thermostat set to a certain level, right? Like, my parents never made more than like 40 or 50 grand a year. So coming out of college, when I started making, you know, 50 grand a year, it was like, oh, cool. I'm good. I'm doing better than my parents are. And that's the thermostat that I had seen set. I never was driven to go make $1 million a year. I was never driven to even make $100,000 a year, because I was just like, oh, like, this is what you make. Like, this is what, you know, like, this is enough to live off of and enough to get by. And I've had this deeply programmed mindset of, well, make just enough to get by. And I notice it. Like, even like, I'll have a month where I crush it and I'm like, yo, boom. And then I'll chill the next month. Like, oh no, you're good. You got enough. and so that's what I'm realizing, like, subconsciously, where's this thermostat set? If things start to get too good, I almost have like I notice this self-sabotaging mechanism that will go back down. And I think it's the same thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. You're like, oh, cool. You're doing good, or you're doing better than your parents, or you're doing better than this goal that you set. And then you chill. And then you're good, you know? So it's like, yeah, where does that come from? Where is your thermostat set? I think that's something that we all have to really, really look at. And that's something that I've been really digging into and noticing in myself.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, man, with the thermostat. I really like that. So would you say this is kind of a good way, good part to segue into what we're going to talk about next is kind of like leadership, right? And even like in America's leadership today from the past couple of years, right? So you're talking about just that thermostat, right? Like to where it's like you kind of compare it to them for like what you've been like raised or brought into, right? Of like maybe 40, 50K, right? Like, do you think that's a lack of leadership on parents, or where do you think that leadership is like kind of lacking, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm really big on, my experience going through the public education system and learning certain things or being programmed to think a certain way.
Yep.
And then leaving that and starting to discover, these personal development things. Like nobody was ever teaching me money mindset. Nobody was teaching me about to look at my subconscious beliefs. Like they don't teach that shit in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, and if there's any lack of leadership, I definitely think it's around, the public education system of like, what are we teaching our kids? At 5 years old, we put you into this system and you are getting programmed for the next 13 years of your life to think a certain way, to strive to like take tests and memorize information. Like we're literally shaping the minds of millions of kids every year. And so if we are to really, I think, have any type of breakthroughs as a society, then I think it really starts with education, because I'm someone who bought into that idea of work hard, get good grades, go to school, go to college, get the degree. And I got to the finish line of that. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, now what? Like, I don't care about any of this stuff. Like my heart and my soul isn't on fire and lit up. And it's like, I could go do finance and make a bunch of money, but am I going to be happy? We're not teaching people how to be happy. We're not teaching people how to be fulfilled.
Exactly.
There's so much stuff that we're not teaching people that once you get out and you start seeking it out yourself, there's, we do live in the information age now, which is great. We have podcasts like this where we get to share new insights and perspectives and ideas. And there's plenty of books and resources and YouTube and social media, and that's dope. But, we're not incorporating a lot of that stuff into like the system that we're putting kids in.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about that. Like I know on a bigger level, my sort of like legacy of how do I want to try to change the world. It's in that area for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We could do a whole podcast, just like session just on that. And I'm very passionate about that subject too, because like we lived through that, and it's like, we did everything quote unquote right that like the status quo or the system wants you to do. But it's just like, oh man, like there was so much missing. But at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like everyone's dealt with different cards in life. It's what you do to it. And it's like, there's no excuse to play the victim role. It's like everyone has, equal opportunity to go out there and just, get those resources, be resourceful and change your way of thinking and do things the right way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So dude, let's talk about this. So I know you said earlier about the highs and lows of entrepreneurism, right? So a roller coaster. And I mean, we could attest to this all day long. And our students, we have to really, condition our students, our program too, to really understand that it's like, it's different seasons. It's, highs and lows, but it's a beautiful thing when you're waking up every morning, being passionate, you're fulfilled and you're creating impact and creating your own income. So you said some days like, it's like off and on. So what do you do personally? What have you found to be the best kind of go-to hack, tip, or strategy to really get yourself set up for the day to play offense and not defense?
Yeah. Great question. I'm big on morning routine. I think that like the first thing that you do in the morning sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I notice a significant difference of, a day where I get up and I do my morning meditations and journaling and visualizing and I hit the gym and I really set myself up for success. That creates this snowball and momentum that carries over energetically into the rest of the day versus the days that I don't do that. And I just sort of leave it up to the wind or whatever. And I'm letting my emotions sort of drive me, which, if my emotions aren't in a good place, if I'm feeling down or low and not in a good place, then I'm going to have a lot of trouble being productive. So to take control of that morning routine, I think first and foremost is really important. And some days, man, you just get hit with like a funk, and it's just even the morning routine isn't good enough for that. No matter how much coffee you drink, it doesn't shake you out of that, So sometimes you got to go, just to deeper places. One, I think is just having support, like having a conversation with, a coach or a mentor or a friend or a peer, somebody where you can really be honest and be vulnerable. Sometimes just talking out whatever's going on, you know what I mean? Like we make ourselves wrong a lot of times for feeling low and down. It's like, fuck, I should be inspired right now. I should be productive right now. And it's like, like you're human. And sometimes we just get hit with those waves and it's okay. And so rather than trying to force yourself out of it, to actually lean into it and embrace it, dive into it, talk about it. I think that's really big, as a coach, as somebody who holds space for people, in their highs and their lows. I know the value of that. But then also, for me, like I live in San Diego, so I have the luxury of being able to just go and like jump in the ocean. If I'm like, I just need a physical reset. Like the cells in my body are just not firing in the way that I want to. I could be feeling, super low and then drive out to the beach and let me just jump into some cold water, shock the system, and come out of that and be like, okay, cool. I'm recharged now.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool though, man, is like, I think a lot of people still don't understand is like their state and their environment, right? So it's like, if somebody lives like in Seattle or something like that, and it's constantly raining, right? There's no sun or something like that. It's like, I'm not saying you got to exit out like in the next like day or week, but put a strategy in place where maybe like the next 6 months or a year, you get out to somewhere like a Florida or California, wherever you want to be, that's going to get you going, man, because people don't understand that. Like for you to have that freedom to just be like, I'm having a shitty day, but I'm going to go jump in the water. I'm going to reset myself. I'm going to go back into like abundance and a gratitude moment. Right. That's going to recharge you back up to go in and keep playing offense in your business, So I think a lot of people just don't understand that state of environment that they're in.
And then like top on like pair that with like a good coach, a good community. I mean, it's like, you're in a good place. And we always say like isolation kills, community heals. So, I mean, if you have a good community of like-minded individuals that understand what you're going through, it's like, that's going to get you through any dark time.
Yeah, that community piece is massive. And I realized that over this last year, because I was able to find that coaching community that I got to be a part of. And I was a student of it. I was a coach in it. And I just developed amazing friendships. I just had a space that I could come to and be super vulnerable and honest and, go through my shit with other people, but then also celebrating wins with other people. I think celebrating is something that we oftentimes don't do enough. Like, we hit our goal and then we're just right on to the next thing. And we have to actually really anchor into our system, anchor into our body, those highs, because then we want more of it. We start sort of, programming ourselves to drive ourselves in that direction more often. So celebrating with other people is so important. But that's been one of the biggest challenges for me, for sure, has been just feeling like I'm alone. I do coaching calls by myself in my bedroom, and I'm just like, I'm connecting one-on-one with people, but I come from working in super thriving environments, working at record labels, working at like, a music production school, which was just like surrounded by like DJs and producers making music every day. I was around like, I'm a very extroverted person. So for me to shift into this, the lone wolf path of doing things by myself, I love that idea that like, the lone wolf, when you hear a wolf howling at night, it's not because they love the moon and they're howling out of excitement. They're actually howling because they're starving and they're dying. They've been separated from the pack because they're pack animals and they have to hunt together. If you're by yourself, you can't hunt and you can't catch anything and you can't eat. So when you hear a wolf howling at the moon, it's because he's fucking dying because he got separated from the pack. And as humans, we are pack animals as well. We're not supposed to be doing shit alone. And so that's something I constantly come up against. I'm like, I start feeling alone. I start feeling isolated. I realize like, oh dude, you're being a lone wolf right now. Like, go call your bros, go get on a Zoom call, go tap in, go set up a co-working, party with some friends and like get out of the house, like change that environment, tap into the community. Super important.
Yeah. So good, man. And so I want to shift over into kind of talking about like a day in the life of like how your day to day is, right? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to know kind of like, what do you do as far as like coaching, life coaching? So yeah, walk us through that. Like, what does the morning routine look like? What's kind of like what the coaching looks like? And then maybe kind of how do you shut it all off and stuff like that and be present later?
Yeah. Great question. So, today, let's just look at today, for example. I can't say I'm 100% consistent with my morning routine right now. Like yesterday, like I got up at 5. If I get up at 5, ideally I like to wake up, I take a walk around my apartment, and I wake up, I go right outside and I start moving right away. Right. So rather than rolling out of bed and going straight to the computer, it's like, go get your body moving first, get some breath in your body. And I focus on gratitude, and I do affirmations, and then I sit down and I just visualize, like, who do I want to be for the day? What is it that I want to accomplish for the day? And then I'll go hit the gym. I've been doing CrossFit lately. So today I just like woke up and went straight to the gym. But
I was the same, man. You're staying jacked. I see those shoulders.
Yeah, man. I was, 7 years of rugby, and then I was just bodybuilding forever. And CrossFit has been just a really fun way to exercise and also tap into community, So I get to go see other humans in the morning. Like, that's nice. Ideally, really lately, the big thing I've been focusing on is visualization, of really tapping into like seeing what does the best version of myself look like, right? Like when I'm really at my peak, what type of energy am I showing up with? What type of person am I being? What type of things am I doing throughout the day? And I see myself being productive. I see myself being energized, and I see myself being passionate. I see myself serving. So getting that vision really clear in my head and really feeling it. That's been a really powerful like morning kind of exercise that I've been doing. I love to do that with music as well. I put music on so that, not just like some inspirational type of hype up kind of music, that it makes you feel it, makes you feel emotional. So like tapping into that emotion has been a really powerful, tool that I've been using in my morning routine. And then, get a good workout in, get the endorphins going. And then, usually I'll have like a couple calls in the morning. So I dive in and I got a couple coaching calls after this that I'll dive into. But yeah, if not, sometimes I have the whole day open. And to be honest, that's where my biggest challenge is I'm looking, I'm like, yo, you got like 8 hours ahead of you and no boss telling you what to do. So what's important, Yeah. I have like a little daily planner called the best self journal. Okay. So the big thing, I read a really great book called The One Thing.
Gary Keller, right? Very good book.
Yeah. And so I've been really trying to implement that, of just like asking myself that question, like, yo, what's the one thing? Because we make up a big old to-do list. So here's 10 things that you could do today to like move your business forward. You could make a post or do your newsletter, do all this, but to actually spend a couple minutes, be like, yo, what's the one thing that's going to make all the difference, and prioritize that, put that at the top, and have that be the first thing that you hit. That's super important. So, I'm really trying to like shift and embrace that. Cause I used to just like have a to-do list, and I'd be like, oh, I'll just do the shit that's kind of easy right now that I know can make me feel like I'm being productive, but it's not really moving the needle, Yeah. And so for me, oftentimes I recognize, you know what, the one thing is like, call that really big, powerful, like music industry guy that you're scared to call, and pitch yourself for some coaching that, because if you land a client like that, that changes the fucking game. I could go make Facebook posts all day and play this sort of like low hanging fruit, but like really looking at like what's a big bold move that I can take to kick off the day. Because if I just attack that first, then what I realize is that also gets me excited and then gives me energy. And then I'm like, okay, cool, let's keep going from here.
Yeah, that's good. So, and then like anything like in particular you do to wind down and just kind of shut your brain off if possible. I know it's hard to do that.
Yeah. That's been a big thing lately. I was talking about, having a relationship earlier. I live with my girlfriend, live with my partner, and we definitely fell into the routine of, just watching Netflix at the end of the night. Like especially during COVID, I was like, I don't remember us ever watching Netflix that much. But then like once COVID started, it was just like every night. And so that's been something I've been very intentional about, like, let's not just like be, we're on our screens pretty much all day anyway. Yeah. So like, let's make sure that we don't do that. Let's be intentional about shutting down. That's, something that I try. I mean, I won't lie. I still find myself, checking my messages or things here and there. But that's been a kind of a constant conversation and just a reminder, like, all right, hey babe, like let's put the phones away. Let's we just like we've been reading books together. Like that's been nice. Like, hey, let's read our book. Let's sit down, or let's just connect. Like let's go out. Let's go get a drink. We went out. We're also just trying to be, now that things are a bit more open now again. So that's been fun. Just going out and connecting with people. I've definitely been trying to read at the end of the night instead. Like instead of watching something or being on a screen, turning to my books instead, and just continuing to feed the mind.
Yeah. That's all good stuff, man. So I'm gonna throw a deep question at you, Nik. So if you had 5 years to live, what would you stop doing?
What would I stop doing? Great question. Yeah, definitely Netflix, as I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big one, dude. I think that really is the big one. Like I can't say, I always say like social media is America's #1 drug problem.
Sure.
Right, because most people, we're just grabbing our phones and we're just scrolling, mindlessly scrolling. And for us as entrepreneurs, if we're using social media as a marketing tool, well, we can't just ignore it. Like if I wasn't a coach that was using Instagram as part of my marketing, I would just delete that shit. I just wouldn't even be on it.
Exactly.
So I think that's the big thing. And I definitely know, like, watching a movie every night, like, dude, that's just wasted hours. Like I could be connecting with my friends, connecting with my girlfriend. That's definitely a big one. What I would stop doing, I'd also just stop being scared. I would stop holding back. I would just literally just give no fucks. And I would just go, I think, I would really be seeking out, like, what is anything that scares me, and building my business and serving my gift in, just living a more sort of adventurous lifestyle, I would just really seek out, like, where is the fear and what is it stopping me from doing? What's it holding me back from? And just like really lean into that more.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, man, like going into 2022, like, because you're very self-aware and very intentional, like what is a fear or like a limiting belief that you really want to kind of like just break past in 2022?
And I think even just ultimately what's going to get you to that next level, of your greatness.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's, I know what's going to get me. There's definitely consistency, because I've been, I would say I haven't been super consistent, like, especially with like just putting my message out. I'm in an interesting place where I'm kind of transitioning from working with, artists, which that's been my background for the last 14, 15 years. I've been working in music industry and artists, but there's just been this deeper calling to serve my gift to more people at a higher level, definitely. Like I just went and did like a public speaking thing last weekend, and when I was up there, I was like, oh yeah, this is my shit. Like this is my thing. So it reminded me, because I used to teach, I used to teach every week, and I'd be up in front of 20 people, a couple times a week, and I loved it. I just am in the zone. I'm in my flow. So for this next year, I would love to start bringing that out. Finding more stages to get on. And definitely with that's like collaborating. So as far as like fear, I think like the fear of reaching out to people, every big sort of leap forward in my career has always stemmed from reaching out, has always stemmed from just saying, you know what, fuck it. I have nothing to lose. Let me hit this like person up. And whether it's someone I knew or it was like a cold call, and you'd be surprised how many people are down to connect. And they're down. Like I've gotten jobs. I've gotten like huge opportunities. I did that the other day where I was like, there was a manager, huge artist manager that I don't even know, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me just hit this guy up. And he got back to me 5 minutes later. He was like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? This is awesome to see what you're doing. And I was like, oh my God, this guy got back faster to me than my fucking friends do. And so just that, as far as the fear, I think oftentimes that's the big thing that holds us back is like, oh, like I'm too small. This person isn't going to like want to work with me or whatever. It's like, dude, just send it, go for it. Like, that's why my billboard would say, go for it. And I think if we just live more in courage, it's like, I think I can start hitting up, people to collaborate with, hitting up people to get on stage with and put workshops together and things like that. I think that's a big thing I want to create for myself this next year. And I've also had this idea, I've been wanting to write a book for a while. That's been floating around. And there's certainly some fear. I think there's the fear of commitment. Like if I say I'm going to write a book and I start that process, then it's like, oh shit. You know, like that's to me, it seems like a very big and intimidating process, but there's also just this super strong calling that I know I need to do that. Like even my mentor, like one of my old mentors hit me up a little while ago. He's like, you need to write a book, right? I was like, I do know that.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm like kind of scared to do, you know? That would change the game for me.
Yeah. Well, dude, if you ever have any questions about that, let us know, man. Happy to, just give you any words of wisdom, but it's a hell of a journey doing that. I think you make a lot of impact, but dude, we're coming to the end of this interview, Nik, and this has been awesome, man. Like, I mean, shoot, we could keep going at this, but before I ask you the last question, I want to take a moment just to commend you, just for everything you're doing, man. Like I said, like you are making a big ripple effect on people's lives and just the impact you're creating. And I don't think you've even realized, like, you haven't even tapped into your true potential. Once you break past those fears, those limiting beliefs, the stories you're telling in your head, man, like it's going to be a huge domino effect. You're going to help a lot of people. So keep doing what you're doing, and, wishing you nothing but just the success going forward in 2022.
Well, I appreciate that. I received those words, go straight to my heart. And same thing to you guys. Like, it really is rad to see guys from Santa Rosa, from the same place, like just getting out there and really being creators and bringing something special and making an impact and paving your own path. That's something that I really, really respect, is when you just decide, this is what I want to do and I'm going to go for it. And it's unknown territory, but having the courage to like take those steps and figure it out. Like, to me, there's nothing more admirable than that. So to see you guys doing it and like, I see you, you know what I mean? I'm in my corner watching you guys like get after it too. And I'm like, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. So my last question is, what is your definition of living a dynamic lifestyle?
Ooh, yeah. Great question. Living a dynamic lifestyle. I think that means, to me, my definition is being open to the unknown and being open to the adventure and the possibilities that are around every corner. Because I think we get so stuck in, this is what I do, this is what life needs to look like. And especially like, I love our morning routines and that, but we oftentimes just get caught in living a very monotonous lifestyle, doing the same thing every day in, day out. And to me, like, that's not very dynamic. And there's an infinite amount of possibilities that are around every corner, that are available to us every moment. Yep. And so being open to, what else could I do? What else could life look like? What else could I look like? Like to me, that's that's dynamic. It's being adventurous. It's adding some spice and some flavor, and just being open to that.
Yeah. Love it, man. Whew. I'll say, man, pour some water on that mic, but you don't got a mic on you. Love it though, man. So Nik, is there anything that we can support you on in particular? And then where can the listeners go and connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. Find me on Instagram. I think that's my big intention for this year is to show up there more. It's just a great place to be putting out content and sharing the message. So follow me on Instagram, Nik Cherwink, and connect, reach out, send a DM. I have an open book. Like, my door is always open. So I love to connect with people. When I'll hit you guys up when I get ready to write this book, because I got to pick your brain and ask some questions. I definitely need some support.
Will do, man. Good, will do. Well, cool. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes for the listeners. And guys, go check out what Nik's doing. He's doing some cool stuff. He's always posting a lot of good content and stuff. So once again, Nik, I really appreciate your time coming on and just all the wisdom, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Nik.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Until next time.